only one that cares.
You in the right place.
You can report it back to me.
Oh,
How you doing, man?
if they can't get out and vote, I don't care whether I tell them or not. That's my pet peeve.
Something to that too.
I mean, say, sit down.
5:30.
You back.
Thank you all for coming. It's now 5:30. We would like to get our meeting started on time. Right, everybody's time. Call this meeting to order. This is a special call meeting. Aldermen sitting off for 5:30, July 14th. Purpose of this meeting is a discussion for the Moss Point Interstate and Redevelopment Plan. Roll call.
Alderman Feldman,
President.
Alderman Bradford,
Here.
Alderman Wilson,
Present.
Alderman Dubose, Alderman Brewster,
Present.
Alderman Chastain,
Here.
Alderman Lennox,
Here.
Mayor, and Judge Pierce is on the call.
Mr. Pierce on the call. Thank you, Judge. Gentlemen, we have an addendum to this agenda. And it was sent out to you today, I believe. Time limits is required according to the attorney. I need a motion to accept the main agenda item as well as the additional items that will mail out to you later today.
So move. Second.
The motion by second by Alderman, who was that? Chapman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, the first item on the agenda is then for the purpose of the call is to have a discussion, a presentation, discussion of our Moss Point Interstate project, I-10 redevelopment plan. And Mr. Craig Hyde is going to conduct that for us. We have a copy of it, a hard copy, I believe. But you have a thing. All right.
Mayor, we moved that down to number 2.
Did we?
Yes.
Oh,
So you got your copy
okay.
that I put in front of you. We moved it down to number 2 so we can get that one action item out of the way and then the rest of the meeting.
Okay, the first item on the agenda, gentlemen, is to approve the client authorization to submit upon the completion of Mississippi Municipal and County Water Infrastructures that are known as MCWI Grant Program. MCWI Subward 143-2, DW5 115, closeout package to Mississippi Department of Environmental Quality, MDEQ, submitted by City Clerk Tricia Tickpen. That's the board.
Motion. Yeah. Second.
Motion by Presiding, second by Alderman Wilson. Any questions?
I had a question. Is this just the, well, I don't know if Richie's not here, and Steve, I don't know if you or Greg would know, but is this just the water line portion of ARPA?
It's not 197, which is the sewer.
This takes care of the drinking water,
Yes, the citywide.
all the citywide projects for drinking water. Okay, thank you.
Quick. All in favor?
I'm sorry, and one more thing. I know all the paperwork isn't filled out. Once everything is actually put on paper, we're gonna put it back for you guys so we can be spread on the minutes. Okay. Sorry.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, item number 2, presentation and discussion of the Moss Point I-10 redevelopment plan. Right?
Okay. I don't know if y'all met Cindy, but she's also been working with me on this project. And Steve. We I guess at this point, we're ready to kind of bring y'all up to speed on what we've been doing. We've got a steering committee that's been meeting, and that's been, we have the fire department going on, at, some of the other people in the city as far as, Clearwater, and we've been talking to them as well, the steering committee. We also talked to Jackson County Utility Authority. They've come in, talk about, what they can do. And so those, we've all been kind of just talking about gathering data. That's what we've been doing for the last couple of months. But let me kind of just give you the background. I don't know if y'all, this is a project that's funded by Gulf Regional Planning Commission. They came up with $300,000 to move forward with this. And the idea of the project, is, first of all, today what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about the background of the project, what our scope of work is as the GRPC project for the I-10 redevelopment plan. And then we're going to talk about the study area, kind of the things that we want to look at in the study area, then discuss the planning priorities, and then talk about some alternatives to make the area be more connected. And then an evaluation process to do that. And that's one of the things we're not quite there on the evaluation process, but that's the next step after we kind of present these alternatives and make sure y'all are okay with the alternatives that we're thinking about. And then the redevelopment deliverables, we'll have that, we'll discuss that, and then we'll discuss GIS, the general consulting contract. As I go through this, I'm going to kind of talk to you about the different stuff that we've developed. Now, part of the background and what we are supposed to do as a part of this project. We're supposed to look at all the major arterials. We're supposed to look at the connectivity between 613 and Highway 63. And how the interlocal roads work and all that's going to work with the area. We're going to have a couple of meetings with the steering committee, which we've had 2 already. We might have 1 more. And then we'll meet with y'all one more time to kind of discuss our findings once we do the analysis. And then what we have been doing is we've got together, we've taken all the GIS data from the county had and all the GIS data we had from y'all prior engineers and so forth, and we compiled all that and we put it into GIS. And I'm going to talk about that, how we've taken that data and how we can use that data going forward. But the kind of this is the project area in blue up there. That's the area that we're looking at. Now, since we've been doing this, we have been collecting some data for the south of the river, like I call it Moss Point, like the main area of Moss Point. We do have data on it because it's kind of been part of the water maps and drainage maps and all that we're doing. So we have, but we have not gone out and spent a lot of time making sure that data is correct. We have done that in the blue area on the map. Okay. Next slide. So I know that this map, I know that y'all have probably had this map since 2020. Okay. It showed the corridors and what we wanted to do. And it's a good conceptual plan of what the city wanted to move forward to. And since this map, a couple of things have been done. MDOT came in about 2004 and did a Pell study to look at what they could do at the interchanges, which is all that you see in kind of orange color. And those were just concepts that maybe we could do, but MDOT basically came back and it's a part of the Pell study, looked at different ways to make the interchanges work better, but they also made the decision that they're not going to widen out. They're going to widen in. They're going to take median out of to make their 3 lanes if they want when they widen. So those are some things that came out of that study. So now, GRPC decided that, well, let's look at this as a holistic project and let's look at all these roads that we put on this map and let's kind of see what the best areas are to redevelop. And so let's just talk a little about the context of this report. What is the present state of development in this area? Like, well, we're going to talk about that in a minute. Who do you think wants to come to Moss Point? What do we want this whole area to develop into? Residentially, commercially? How do we make this whole area, bring the whole area together? Not just looking at commercial development. And some of the things that we need to look at as we do this planning process, we need to look at flood risk. We need to look at sensitive resources that are out there, maybe wetlands and different things that are involved. Community information, what the community wants. And then zoning, do the parcels, the way they're zoned now, can we actually do what our vision is? And then infrastructure. That's the next thing, we're going to talk about what we gather as far as infrastructure. So some of the stuff like flood risk, for example, here's two maps they're taking that show you the 100-year floodplain, and then the map on the right just kind of got the, you can see the area under it. All that blue is light blue is the 100-year floodplain. And all the areas right there that look greenish are outside the 100-year. So that's the area that, if you don't want to have flood insurance, the only areas. The other thing is the map next to it is basically an inundation map. It kind of shows you when we have high rains, where the water collects first and how the river backs up. And those the dark blue areas are the heaviest, and then as it gets lighter, you can see it, it's less intense. And so we just kind of show you that to give you an idea of some of the things we want to look at. Sensitive areas. Next slide. These light blue lines are all the drainage areas, okay, which coincide with the purple on the other drawing, which is basically the wetland areas that have been identified from. That's not saying that all these areas can't be developed in, they can be mitigated, there are wetlands there, but the question is what level of wetlands, what's it going to cost to be basically develop in those areas. And a lot of those areas are, and you're going to have to build them. All right. The next thing is talk about the community and economic development. Well, once again, this is the study area and how the roads connect and so forth. It's one of them to look at. We can go to the next slide. Then here's the zoning for the area. So you can see it's pretty heavy residential. All the yellow is R1. Red is C2. And the dark brown is C3. And then, but you can see that if we're going to redevelop, what land, how does this land need to transition? Because there's not as much land between 613 and 63 as you think. I mean, it's, and I'm going to have a map later to kind of explain that to you. The next one is kind of what we looked at is the parcel types. We look at vacant land. So all that hatched area in green is vacant land up there. And there's a fair amount of vacant land. Then we've got to kind of, in our analysis later on, we'll be looking at what developable lands are best to develop and how it relates to the corridors that we decide to build. Building occupancy is the next one. These are the parcels that are occupied with some kind of structure. There's some of them that there might be one house, but there's a big acreage, so this map needs to be refined. Here's the first cut at kind of what we've got as developed. All right. We actually went out and did a inventory of all the condition of the buildings out there. There's probably 815 structures in this study area. And we kind of our first look at it, I mean, just kind of going out there and doing a little windshield survey, there's like 42 structures are excellent condition, 275 that are probably in good condition, and then there's probably 380 that are fair, and then there's probably 78 poor, and probably 39 that's, so 39 that are dilapidated type structures. So those are things we.
Say those numbers again, please. 815,
815 total.
Okay.
Yeah.
42 and excellent.
All right. So start excellent is 43. Good is 275. And fair is 380. And then poor is 78. And dilapidated is 39.
Greg, you're talking about the entire study area, correct?
That is the entire study. Now, this map doesn't show the entire study area. If you're looking at
It's
just,
quite large, it's much more than just the corridor interstate stuff. It's further, it's like you said, there's some of it south and it expands pretty good, the entire study area.
yeah, the entire study area is a big, it goes on, this map kind of cuts off. If you're looking at this map, there's probably only about 330 parcels or properties in this area that we're looking at on the drawing. So, but I say all that is that this is the kind of data we're gathering to determine if we got vacant parcels and dilapidated properties, then that dilapidated property becomes somewhat vacant. You know, and so the key is to aggregate property in areas that are less flood prone, you know, to look at it from that perspective. Before we start spending $10 million on the road, we need to make sure that we're putting it. Okay. The next thing is infrastructure. This is the final. Now, what we've done is we've taken all the data that we have and we've got the water, sewer, the gas. We have all of those in GIS. We put it in there. So now we have some idea what size pipes there are and that kind of thing. So that's another thing. When you start developing, we need to know that we can get gas if they need gas. We need to know that they need a 12-inch water line for fire suppression, and, you know, we got to make sure that that's there for them, or we got to upgrade. So those are the kind of things that the infrastructure maps will help us with and trying to determine where we want them. We're also looking at the stormwater stuff. Y'all know we're doing an overall stormwater plan, part of the CDBG project, Title Zeta project. That data, we've got that data too, and we're looking at it as well. And then we've got the water distribution system. We're looking at all that in that area, but that is now J.C. Ray. So we're going to work with them on trying to make sure, because the fire department, that's the other thing, is we got to start, we need to look, and we've gone out and kind of surveyed this area for the conditions of the fire hydrants. And some of the fire hydrants, they have a date on them. Some of them are 1964 on the date of the fire hydrant. So there's some stuff that's out there that needs to be replaced and upgraded. Now, from the fire department standpoint, we got to work with GAC Ray. I think they can help get that like it needs to be. But those are some of the things that were, like I said, from infrastructure. Okay. Scott?
Question.
Got it.
Back when you're talking about community and economic development, and we have a serious problem out there on Elder Ferry. Elder Ferry, by that, what's that Palm? Alderman Chapman and we was on Elder Ferry there, and that's some residents right there with, what's that pond that is washing those people away from Elder Ferry?
We're talking about north.
No, it wouldn't be north. It's,
Intersection of Elder Ferry and Dutch Bayou.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, right there. We were going. Yeah, we just bought property there. We're
Birds.
Birds places.
Right.
For his complex here.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, just to the,
Property and adjacent property having, I think it's just some intrusion. We gotta improve the drainage right there.
south of there, right?
Well, we'll make a note on it.
Yeah, sure.
we'll make a note of that. Make sure it's in part of the drainage study that we're doing, make sure they know.
Good, because, those people are getting washed away because it's a pond. I don't know.
I think it's the pond they built when they built the dealership.
Right.
Retention pond.
Retention, I couldn't think of the word, yeah.
Right. See,
It's kind of behind the Toyota or the Ford dealership.
we, you're talking about some development, we need something bad done to that.
And that's in the project area.
It is,
It's in the project area?
it is, and we'll look at it. We'll make a note of it.
Please, do, please.
We'll look at it.
I'm good.
Okay. So this is a list, so there's no, these are high for lowest priorities, like what we want to do is we want to look at these priorities. And stuff y'all think we need to add to this, tell us. But, you know, what's missing from it, what should we, you know, what are the benefits of each priority? So we're going to talk about transportation, we're talking about economic development, we're talking about community development, sustainability, resiliency, and growth, connectivity, and infrastructure, and also packages. Those are the priorities that we kind of set, and those are the things we want to, this plan we're going to look at. So we'll start with transportation.
What, let me interrupt you. You talked a lot about the GIS,
Database.
a database of all the water lines and such as that. Is that still part of the plan?
Yeah, it is. And so that you, all right.
Fire hydrants was the other thing, right?
Stop, man. We still, when we get through with this part, we're going to be Clearwater, we're going to be Public Works, Water Department. We got to develop a system, how we're going to maintain this information. Because we've inventoried it, we've got the data, but somebody comes and gets a new water meter, how are we going to get it in the system? How are we going to put it into the GIS system? How are we going to, you know, when they go out in Public Works and put in a new fire hydrant, replace a water line, how's that data going to get into the map? How's it going to be updated so we can keep track of it? So that goes back to work orders, okay? So when the city does a work order, calls it in, they do a work order. Same thing with manholes. Like, we've got projects that we've gotten, like the ones that Neil Schaefer's done, we've put them in here because we have, they've surveyed it, and we can pull that into GIS, and it's really good information because we know what the ditch depth is and all that right now. So that's fine now, but 2 years from now, if the ditch is filling in, and we're going out there cleaning the same ditch 3 or 4 times in a row, we need to figure out how to fix that so we're not going out there 3 times a year. So that's the goal of trying to get this stuff into GIS and then going through the work order process. So that's a whole nother thing. We'll talk about that later. That's addition to this, the study itself. But one of the things we want to try to do is we've got what we've done in this area is we've gone out there with a handheld iPad or a tablet, and we create a map, and we go through there and you check yes or no on this portion. Like the structures, we took a map and they went out there and just went down through the map and checked them all, whether they're conditions. We can do the same thing with fire hydrants. They can go out there with a tablet, fire department, you got somebody on light duty or whatever, they can go out there with a tablet, stand next to a fire hydrant, get the GPS coordinate, and then we got that data, it's there. We have a map that shows all that. It's more like, okay, we're gonna go down here to the corner of a street, and that's where the fire hydrant is. But as we build this GIS system, that's how smart it will be. We'll have real time coordinates.
All right, so what are we're talking about everything I-10 development, right?
This area is from the north line of
It
the
is.
city down to the river.
I-10 development.
Right.
So water shouldn't even be our concern. No more.
No, that's just part of it.
I got you.
No, the I-10 development is just part of the overall project.
I got you.
It is your concern. The only concern you have is fire protection. You're still serving it.
Yeah, but that's a JCUA discussion.
That's right. But knowing what you need from a fire perspective and talking to them about what you need for a fire, looking.
I'm just trying
That's
to.
what this data will help you do. I mean, it's gonna help you. All right, Jason, we need some new fire hydrants down here. We need, but as far as actual billing and all that, y'all want that's not a part of this.
Okay.
But it will be for the fire. It'll affect your fire. As far as this study, these are the things you want to look at. And then we kind of want to ask a few questions now. I mean, like, in what areas, when you think about this area, north and south, what areas do you think are isolated in that area?
The intersection real quick, it's going to be interactive and conversations here as you're talking, so we want to give you all, we want to add to some further user document to see what y'all know.
So, and what amenities and what would you like to see? Like,
Talking about the corridor, the interstate corridor, I want to go back in history. The whole thing started, I'll try to be brief if I can. When somebody came to us and wanted to put this was back during the Broomfield administration. Somebody came to us, wanted access into that big vacant piece of land that's on the north side. They needed road access into it, and there was a proposal to put some type of medical facility. I can't remember what it was, but so they came, met with us in a meeting similar to this, and put out what they didn't tell everything, but they kind of told us what they could about what they had a developer that wanted to put a medical facility. I think it was some type of testing lab or something. And he just kept saying, the landowner just kept saying, I can't develop this because I don't have a way to get into it. So that just kind of planted the seed and got our wheels to turn or I can speak for myself anyway, at looking at the service roads and noticing that development up to that point had followed along where the service roads were. Where the service roads stopped, there wasn't. And here we had somebody wanting to do more, but they couldn't. So our first grant was approved, I think, in 2015 or 2016. Of course, that's Restore, so it takes forever to get the money, but that's how far back it was. Senator Watson and Governor Bryan at the time started us out so we could get the ball rolling. And I think there was an early study, some money put aside for some type of study. So, we just basically got to looking at it in the group that I was working with back then. We wanted our local people to be able to go from 63 to 613 without having to get up on the interstate. So we wanted that connection, and the idea was to put it along the interstate so that you could develop this commercial property and it could be visible from I-10, so you could see this, and people driving through would see this area starting to develop. Now, I don't know that it's big enough for a Costco or something like that, that or a super Walmart. That type of stuff takes considerable acreage. But I do think there's definitely potential there for retail development. It might be enough more medical. Yeah. So that was what started, was medical. And I think more hotels, because hotels is something, and restaurants are something we need to think about, because those things feed directly into the city's financial stability because of the 2% food tax and the 3% hotel tax, and the county's 2% hotel tax that in turn they promote tourism. So that was some of the thinking, and safety, because there's been a lot of wrecks, a lot of fatalities in that 1 mile stretch. And that's another thing. Speaking of the 1 mile stretch, we early on we called it the Magnificent Mile. Well, Chicago didn't like that, so they shut us down. Because that is, as far as we know at the time anyway, there was no other place along I-10 from, where does it go, Los Angeles or wherever it goes on the West Coast all the way to Jacksonville, where there were inside a single city where you had this stretch like this, 1 mile apart. You had two intersections with two state highways and an interstate all converging right there together. So all that means a lot of traffic. I think one time they did a count, it was something like 94,000 cars per day. That may include north, south, and east, west. I can't remember. So it was just one thing after another that we want to take advantage of this. Well, once it was, and I think, just my opinion, I don't have data to except reality to back it up, is once we started making plans and people started hearing about what this board was wanting to do up there, all of a sudden you started getting more interest in car dealerships and other things. We've heard from Nukes recently, Aldi, Tractor Supply moved up there. Now you got the truck stop that they're building the raceway. So I think just the idea that Moss Point's willing to try to do something to improve access up there and to provide like you said, connectivity and to improve the safety is making it more attractive and it's drawing attention to it. And I hope that, it may, like I said, it may not be a big box. We may not want a big box, but I've in our Main Street meetings, they've told us a Main Street type development where you have multiple businesses it's a much better payoff than a big box.
I agree with that. And that's kind of when we say we're looking to bring, it's almost like bringing the whole community up. So if you have quality housing, if you build a nice apartment complex, and it's 250 units, I'm just saying, it's people, and they're going to spend money. Then they're going to go to the restaurant. They're going to go to the different, the grocery store, all that kind of stuff. So having some density within this area is not a bad thing either. Right now, when you look at a lot of the residential, it's only a couple of acre lots out there. I mean, if you look at the stuff up north, they're houses on pretty good size acreage.
Well, I heard.
And I don't think that changes. But you've got to figure out how to make it work with those people. What's the best thing to do?
I heard you speak of medical centers. You have two medical centers within a mile apart up there in that area. You got Memorial sitting right here on 613, and you got a family like a walk-in medical center right off Elder Fury, right next to the hotel there. So you already have two medical centers.
Well, it moved up to Saracenia, but I get what you're saying. And that's a clinic.
Yes.
This was more of a larger testing facility and lab and that sort of thing. It was a medical facility, but it wasn't a doctor's office that they would want.
But I know you have a doctor's office, right?
Yeah, Memorial's got one on
Memorial have one here on 613.
like an urgent care. Yeah.
All right. Economic development. And we need to talk about attracting tourism, promote density residential, kind of brought that up. But what type of development is ideal for 613? What type of development will benefit residents? What type of development, some of the same things I've already said. For promote tourism. And all right, this is the question. What makes Moss Point unique from anybody else on the Mississippi Gulf Coast?
The river?
Okay. All right.
No. Two major highways.
Yeah.
Coming through it.
Yeah.
Well,
we have a major airport. We have sea, rail, all the other access to transportation. So of course, that makes us unique.
That's very true, Alderman. Yeah.
Good point.
well, you have it all.
Okay.
You got both.
Got major ingresses and egresses on all accesses.
Okay.
I thought when they opened I-10 that traffic will slow down coming through Moss Point. It's worse.
It's worse.
It's worse. I mean, Main Street through Moss Point, 613. You're right. And I thought when they opened 10 out there, oh man, it'll be peaceful, and no, it's not. It's wide open. It's a drag strip.
To follow up on what Alderman Dumas said, I do think we should try to, parlay the fact that we have rail deep water and an airport so close together up there. And that's another thing. You're inside this study is that industrial property that's right along the river on the north side that could be a mini, ready site, or what do they call it? What's the term they use?
First they take all that aggregate they got, and put it over there. 613.
But I'm just saying they've got on the river shore, you've got,
Take some load off.
the mayor and I looked, and you've got 200 to 400 acres vacant now of industrial property right there on the shore of the river. So I think, and that's within your study area. And it's so close to what we're talking about that I think that it could feed off of
I
that.
mean, I wish we could move all that stuff that's underneath the bridge at 613 and put it up.
Yeah.
Literally move, get whatever we gotta do to make it work. I mean, we gotta get economic development grant, whatever, to get those property owners to work with us. I mean, we may have to swap land with them or something, but it would make a big difference in the way things look when you come in.
But Alderman Duval's right though, we got main highways, though. Like I tell you, 63 didn't take no pressure out 613. It's
So my point I'm trying to make is how do we become more competitive on that side of the bridge? And we own an interest in it. Is only because you have Theodore with distribution networks, Walmart, whatever, Amazon, we should have a Target, eBay, those things that bring jobs, that create affordable housing. But when you don't have population and sustainability, it doesn't matter what you got.
True. And who's to say that, again, kind of piggybacking on what Alderman Dubus said, who's to say with this international linked airport, and now they've done all the work to harden the runway so it can take heavier loads. I'm hearing that FedEx is going to be soon looking for a new home as Mobile grows at Brickley Field. They're likely going toward Pensacola, but who's to say we couldn't try to attract them to Trent Lott? And who's to say we couldn't, to Alderman Dubus's point, look at developing not us developing, but attracting a developer for some type of distribution center up by the airport that could take advantage of this rail and this airport and this highway and this river. I mean, there's so much, it seems like, from a layman, it seems like there's a lot of potential.
So, I mean, like, there's room for developing some stuff. You've got to find it right.
I think Theodore already got the Amazon, but is there something else out there that,
I think even, we definitely need to look at that. We need to look at some areas for that. More industrial use.
Yeah.
we talk about River City. This is a river. And everybody, who doesn't even have a bass pro shop. All the fishing go on in this area. What about a bass pro shop? Guys fish, they have to go way around right now to get lures, and you have to go to Pascagoula Nelson, but to get like some substantial fishing gear, they have to go all the way to Foley to the Bass Pro Shop.
One of the things that we get to, I'll show you a map and I get to the alternatives, but I think we can move on from economic development. And then sustainability, that's kind of what we continue to talk about that. I mean, and I think we've got to figure out how to bring the area, neighborhoods, it's like we got to figure out how to make it feel like a like we may need lighting and a lot of things that 613 probably needs to have to make it more. We got to work on sidewalks. But one of the things on here, we talk about remote waterfront access. Now, there's a boat ramp right under the bridge. I don't know where I'm talking about. I know that probably a lot of people talk negative about it.
under 63 bridge, you mean?
Yeah, that's how.
I-10.
Oh, you're talking about the I-10 bridge? But there's also one under Highway 63.
Yeah. I-10 bridge, right there.
That's right on 613.
Yeah.
The one right on 613. Yeah, it's huge.
Now, in my thoughts, there's a couple of things. And this is something they're not doing everywhere else. And I think you could create an area. If you want to host fishing tournaments, you need to be able to park 150 boats to 200 boats. I'm talking about a regional tournament, I mean, a regional deal. Now, how many of those you get? You might get a high school tournament, you might get a pro tournament, yeah, but, you know, depending on, you know, there's people out there that are spending a lot of money. If you do that along with an RV park somewhere down there in some of the low areas, and you make it, you know, you got people getting off the interstate, going to the RV park, just staying some staying the night or whatever. And all of a sudden, you have multiple people coming in, kind of like cruising the coast. All of a sudden, you got this big event and people are coming here, and then they have a good experience, they'll come back. And I think the key there is you got to figure out how to make it feel like, you know, you're safe, and then, you know, whatever that takes. But those are the kind of things I think Moss Point could do. And that goes back to the River City. I mean, that goes back to, and there's opportunity in different boat programs. I mean, you even got the one here, which we talked about moving, but there's opportunity to do a lot right here in this, I think it's a mile radius, maybe.
That's it. The only thing about that lunch you talking about, you only got one ramp. You
Yeah,
have,
but I understand, but this is bigger than that. I mean, like, the vision is I would put a marina in those Oxbow lakes. I would take on either side, I'd take those Oxbow lakes, I'd build a little place for people to park the boat. They come in from a tournament, they gotta have a place to park. And then they get unload their fish and they do all that. So it's just a thought. We can talk about that down the road.
That does work in conjunction with the fact that you said that Highway Department is looking at expanding the interstate inward and not outward, so you wouldn't have to worry about that.
Well, yeah, I've got a map that shows kind of what we're talking about. But one of the things that has to do with connectivity as well. We'll talk about that later on, but cost effectiveness, and that's another thing we need to look at. And there's cost associated with development all the time. Whether you got to build fences, whether you got to do whatever you got to do to make the project work, you got to look at those things and make it work. You got to be able to look at what it's called, mitigate precedents, or do whatever that, you know, get water and sewer there. But I think we have a pretty good handle on connectivity part of infrastructure on the things that we've done. Okay.
We need a study on wetlands.
Do what?
You mentioned wetlands.
Well, we've got a national map that shows kind of what the wetland general area is. Now, that doesn't mean that there's not pockets on a piece of property, but yeah, there's some maps out there that show you roughly.
A bit of the area right there in the vicinity of that boat launch is wetland.
There is, yeah. And it's on, you can see it on some of these maps, but let's go ahead and talk about what we're thinking about alternatives. Let's go on and get that. All right, these are not set in stone, but they are what we think becomes an overall redevelopment plan for these 6 different areas. Okay. That we've kind of shown on this map. So what we would do, we'd look at a frontage road along the interstate. We'd look at improving Nice, look at improving Jamestown, and we'd also look at improving Griffin, Frankfurt,
Yeah.
And then and that makes what we were calling the River City Connection, which is a multi-phase project, and it's going to connect back under the interstate. So alternative one, like I said, would be a frontage road, which is what we've been talking about, and it would tie in. There's some things that, you know, we're going to put this all into a matrix. We're gonna analyze all these options. We're gonna look at how much land do you really open up for development, those kind of things. But that, the frontage road would be one of the first ones. And, here's some of the things that we, commercial corridor along I-10. We'd have to look at the present of flood prone areas, costs of, to build in those areas, present safety issues as it relates to Wimberley Road and how close it is. Just, those are kind of things we'll be looking at, right? These things, how they interact. And what does this area suit for people traveling, that kind of thing. Okay. Next one is, and then Nice is a different kind of concept, which is basically moving a little further to the north and developing. You gotta give you two sides of the road to develop. There's some vacant land on that side of Nice, north and south, and then you figure out a way to get better access back in with a road to those undeveloped areas towards the interstate.
Talking
Gives you
about
more room.
property acquisition now. Talking about a lot more property acquisition now.
Well, I mean, that's one of the things that will be in the matrix that when we set up the matrix and we'll look at that cost as it relates to property acquisition, what it takes to do that. I mean, and we're going to show you that here in a minute too. But yes, I mean, Nice, I think there's some opportunity there though to probably do some things like apartments and different things that are not right on the interstate. That gives you develop one side, the other side may be commercial, like it could be more mixed use. But that's just, we're going to still flesh out those things as we go through. All right. So then it comes to, all right, this is the concept. The River City connection is the concept that you take. So you basically make a circle. You start at Nice, you go down to Frank Griffith, you go under, you improve the roads, you come back out, and you come back down, basically Rosa, and then somehow either you connect road, you can just do what we've got there, maybe put some roundabouts and make it connect back to Jamestown around the school, but then you're back to Amico where you get back on the interstate.
Yeah.
63. But the thought here is that then you open these different areas up for development. And then, basically you never have to get on the interstate if you improve those roads. Like I said, one of the goals would be is to make sure that and I think there'd be the goal of any of these is to look at it and see how they flesh out as far as the connectivity and so forth, and how they help with redevelopment. Let's go to the alternative. The evaluation. So these are just some. All right, we'll take each alternative and we're going to kind of look at it from to those same things that we saw. We'll basically take and make a matrix and we'll assign values to it. And it'll be about, between 1 and 10 kind of thing, where you'll look at how each alternative helps with these different areas that we've talked about. I guess y'all have any more comments before I go to it? Okay. Part of what this is part of delivering. So this is the next step in the process, us doing this process. The deliverables, when we get done, there'll be a plan that talks about what kind of, it'll show what we think ought to be zoned. It'll be a future land use map. It kind of gives you an idea of what we think would go in different places, where you might have recreation, where you can have apartments, where you can have, industrial, residential, that kind of thing, for the whole area. And we'll use all the planning tools that we have, the data that we gather in GIS, and to do that. And there will be the GIS tools. That's another thing that we've got to talk about, and that's the process of maintaining the data. And that's really one of the things that we were going to bring up maybe at the next board meeting is, I think it's been expressed that they want that. We talked about the county maybe doing it, but I don't think that's an option. I think the mayor, I think you were saying, and he just needed us to sign a contract or something with y'all to do that, and basically take and start with maintaining what we've done on this, meaning water lines and all that kind of stuff, and come up with a system and a process. Now, we will do that as a part of this. We're going to meet with everybody and figure out what those steps are. But there's some things that we have to do before we can do that. And one of those is, the city of Moss Point has to have their own GIS, I guess, license. Okay, so, and with that, you've got to host your data. We have it, but we can't do it through Neil Shepherd. So we got to set that. It's not terribly expensive. It's a couple of thousand. It costs a couple of $1,000 a year to do it, to maintain it. And then when it comes to what we're doing, we're basically going to just help maintain as we get things from Public Works, as we get things from whoever. Maybe your planner is doing your zoning. When y'all do a zoning change, the planning commission does a change, there'll be a process for them to give it to us to put it in GIS and make sure those things they're updated. So that's kind of the general premise of what a contract would be. It's not like we're going to be doing that every day. You know, I mean, you probably only have, I don't know how many zoning changes y'all have in a year, but it's probably not a handful. You know, so, but with that, those are the kind of things the GIS management would be. And that probably for us to do that, I think we talked about it being around $10,000. And it'd be an hourly, just like deal. That'd be a budget. Spend it. It's just based on what time we spend. So that would be the next, I guess, thing that we need to talk about. Because I mean, as I say, somebody may be getting a water meter right now. We're not updating anything. So we need to make sure that we're updating stuff sooner than later. So, y'all have any questions? Seems like
So
I feel like it's been long now.
I know you've initiated a lot as far as compiling or generated already. Is there a timeline or something?
Yeah, okay. So our contracts, we're supposed to finish in December.
December of this year.
Your deal, yeah. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this data, we're gonna go back and we're gonna start on and if there's something else y'all want us to look at, for us, different areas, like, for example, I mean, some of the things y'all brought up, we can look at some of these flooding areas and that kind of thing. We can also look at, you know, if we want to try to create another industrial spot down on the water that is more, you know, conducive for people to bring their aggregate and stuff. That's something we can put in here. And it's just, it may be kind of a wish list thing, but you know, if you put it on paper, at least, you know, it comes up, somebody addresses it, you say, oh yeah, it's here in our plan. You know, we talk about doing this. It also helps with getting grant, or kind of thought about what you want to do. So, but far as timeline, yes, my goal would be is to come back to y'all again, probably November-ish. Our meeting in November with kind of what our plan, our draft is, share it, and then we give it to you ahead of time. But then at that point, once we get approval, wrap it up.
Greg, I think it'd be good to make a note, to look at that area you just mentioned. It would be, in my mind, from Dutch Bayou, not Dutch Bayou Road, but the actual bayou on the west side, west end, all the way east all the way to past the old halter, which is Bollinger property now, all the way to, I would say, what is actually owned by, it'd be east of 63 Bridge. It'd be further, there's some railroad property, there's the company that used to be Vicol, I can't think of the name, they own property over there. There's American Tank, several companies own.
We can pull all these parcels.
Yeah.
And we can put together a spreadsheet pretty quick and have all the ownership easily, like.
And the mayor's got some of that already that he's been looking at. We know what's for sale. We know what's vacant. We know who's got it listed for sale. But Bollinger just recently listed their land over there for sale. So there's land available, industrial land, and enough of it that I think you could make some type of industrial park. If you put all of it together, if you could get all the stakeholders to agree, hey, let's market this whole area as a development site, that might be something worth taking a look at.
Any other questions?
When's your next meeting, this planning committee? Steering committee is you.
I would say probably, September, probably. 1st October, somewhere in there.
So you gotta have your GIS completed by the time they convene.
We're pretty close. I mean, on the GIS stuff, we've kind of got it going. I mean, but what we'll have is what I hope to have by then is the process of how we're going to maintain it. Like sit down with Clearwater, sit down, and explain to everybody within the city how this is going to help everybody understand that if we keep this data updated, like if the fire department's going out there and having to do flow tests, because they have to do it annually, then we give them a tablet to let them do it that way. I mean, and then automatically, when we set that up in a tablet, it automatically can be relayed back to us. So, I mean, it's like real time. It's not, so as we get these things going, some of that stuff will be real time. If we can figure out, like, we got to sit down and talk to the people that manage our work orders. I've talked to them, but I haven't met with them. But like the work order system, how do we take the work order system and bring it into the GIS? I mean, like how can we make that work? Now I know some work orders are going to be like, go out there and it's on the other side of the water meter or something, and then, there's going to be stuff like that. But as you start getting work orders and you keep going to the same place over and over, are you mowing the same grass, or you're doing it, like there's you can start managing that better. The same in Clearwater. I mean, if they mow the same thing for the last, just because it's easy to mow. I mean, no, we got to go mow this ditch over here. It's not so easy to mow. And what GIS will help you do is also lay out the map for like stormwater. Okay, every year, Richie can attest to this. When we do your stormwater management plan, we have to send it into DEQ. We go to Clearwater and we're like, what ditches did you clean? Like, because they're supposed to, we need to tell them how many miles of ditch we clean. Well, if they had this on a tablet, they could say, we cleaned this ditch from Martin Luther King, whatever, first, like they could give us a segment now, but they could do that same thing, but it would be automated and then it'd be real time kind of thing. And the guy out in the field marks it, it's a GPS coordinate when he cleaned. So that's kind of the thought process, trying to get to that. Still work to get there, but I think we can do it. We got to have some cooperation.
Mayor, do we need a motion to accept this plan or is it
No,
action?
it's just an update. But I will bring, I'll get you the stuff for the next meeting.
I think the one in November he's talking about is, we need to have to bring everything finalized at that point.
Okay.
And also at that point, talk about GIS system. Because I think once we agree to have a GIS system, you got to also make sure you got somebody to manage that system. Keep this data updated, like you said.
That's right. That's
That's somebody doing it. You got to have somebody designated that you know that's going to be keeping it up.
and it may be multiple people. So, it may be the person assigning the water meter and address. That may be the person how we get the information, If you go take one out, you might, you need to know you took it out, that kind of stuff.
I think it'd be good to follow up again with Clearwater. They mentioned a lot of things during their contract presentation, that they had some stuff in the works that sounds like it do a lot of what you're saying.
Yeah, it does. It will.
I don't know if they haven't seen it yet. Promised it back then, but I haven't seen it yet.
Matt, we talked. I talked to him about it, and we, like I said, we got to figure out the work orders, like how that's going to work with our system and all that. But I think it can work. It's just a matter of putting it all together.
If you remember, Clearwater started that GIS tracking on our natural gas system. I don't know how far along it got. They did start it. It was required by the Public Service Commission. So, but I'll have to try to find out how far we got on that. So they at least had a proposed system in place that they were working to put together.
We have data on that too.
Right.
We need to check. It needs to be verified.
Let's see if it's up to date.
I'm confused.
What do you want me to explain?
One is because we're talking about water and data and stuff that doesn't belong to us. And I'm just trying to make sure that we.
I'm talking about everything that belongs to you. I'm not talking.
Okay, but you keep saying water
Well,
and Clearwater and them having the accountability of dealing with certain things that just don't belong to us. And I'm trying to
okay.
conceptualize it.
The drainage, all of that south of the river, north of the river belongs to you. So we got to track drainage, we got to track fire hydrants just because the fire department.
Well, I got
The
you.
rest of it, now sewer and all that's on them, but we're going to work with them and we're going to set up the same system that we got to do with Clearwater with JCQA.
Okay.
We've already talked to Eric about it. We're going to set.
I just have to
No,
conceptualize what
No.
you're talking about to me.
it's two different people.
I got you.
It's going to be doing this here. And this data that we've got,
But we're discussing everything north of the river, right? I-10 development
for this.
for this redevelopment, I-10, while we're
But
talking.
what's come along because of all that, we got all the data for the whole city.
I got you.
So we've got this data. So there's no reason for us not to try to implement south of the river.
Yeah, because that's where my concerns are.
Right. And that's that's the goal, is to try to, and it's going to take some time. We'll just keep working towards it. We're doing the same thing in a couple of other cities, but it's been a process. Like when somebody, like a project's designed and somebody, the county's doing a drainage project, for example, out of Ryerson. Well, we have those plans. We've put that into the GIS system. They gave us their data. We have all that drainage. It's surveyed in. Those are the kind of things we can start doing, is to keep track of everything. But we got to have a process of collecting as they do it, So.
Anything else? Questions? To adjourn?
Let's keep going.
Second.
Motion by Chester, second by Alderman Chapman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Let's have it. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you all for coming.
That could be Wayne Park.
Everybody sign the sheet.
I didn't.
No, I didn't.
It's up there. Please make sure you sign.
Great.
Oh, just,